Good afternoon, and thank you so very much. Here at the very first Impact the People Power Lecture Series. Once again, I want to welcome you, each and every one of you who took the time out to come out today. I've heard a saying that we teach what we most need to learn. We teach what we most need to learn. And I've heard this said many times, and it always leads me to believe that it's the reason why I'm always talking about the subject of purpose. Purpose. Why are you here? Why am I here? Why are we here? Purpose. So, I want to share a little story with you that I believe kind of started my road to finding purpose off a little rocky. From the time I was a little girl in Brooklyn growing up, I understood early on that I had a fascination with words. Words. How you said what you said and why you said it. Why? I was always inquiring. Why was the most asked question in my vocabulary. Why do we have to live here? Why can't we live down south? Why do we always go just once a year and stay for 2 months? Why don't we celebrate birthdays? Why don't we celebrate Christmas? Why? And you know what? I can clearly remember the time when the answer to a question brought me indescribable pain. It happened when I was meeting the man who I believed, or who I thought was my father, for the very first time. Now, when I began to understand that my mother had, quote, left her husband, I didn't have any reason to believe that her husband was not my father. Now, I was about 11 or 12 years old, so you can imagine, as a young girl, I was really excited when I found out that her husband, my daddy, was going to be coming over to my grandmother's house for a visit. Now, my mother was a school teacher, so every year, once a year, we would come south for the summer break. When she had her time off from school, we had summer vacation, she would take us, me and my brother, back south here for the 2 months that we were out of school. So this particular time, I was really excited because this man that my mama had left was going to be coming over to my grandmother's house where we would stay to visit us. So I was naturally excited. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to meet my daddy for the very first time, right? So wrong. I was so wrong. I'll never forget the moment. This tall man came through the door. He walked up to me with his hand outstretched, extended in order for me to shake his hand. And he said, very plainly, my name is Melvin Johnson. So the first question that's going through my mind, of course, was, what kind of way is that to greet your daughter you never seen before? I'm thinking, you never met me before, and that's all you can do is extend your hand for me to shake it like I'm some stranger? Well, what about grabbing me up and swinging me around and hugging me and kissing me and saying how excited you are to see me and how are you? And oh my goodness, I'm happy to see you. What about all of that? I was wondering, what? Shaking my hand? Well, I felt like the balloon that got the air let out. I really was hurt. I mean, really. So I shook his hand, because I didn't want to leave it hanging like Billy D. Williams asked Diana Ross, okay, I'm back. She said, you just, you had to finish that thought. Are you just going to leave my hands there? Yeah, that. I didn't want to just leave them hanging, as we say. I guess that's where that saying comes from. You're just going to leave me hanging. So I didn't want to leave him hanging. I shook his hand, and I went to the back room. My mother followed me back there, and she proceeded to tell me that she really didn't know how to say this. Okay, I knew something was coming when she started it like that. I don't know how to tell you this, but he's not your father. Wow. He's not my father? What do you mean he's not my father? Okay, well, after I kind of recovered from that, I didn't really recover from it, but I said to myself, and I said to her, I shut down after that, well, okay, if he's not my father, then who is? And quite honestly, I really don't think that I remembered what happened next, because I really think, like I said, that I shut down at that moment and drew a blank for the next 5 or 10 years. Because to me, it was like I just got some news that I was dropped off from nowhere. Maybe they were telling the truth about the stork story. Well, I'm being dramatic, I know, because my mother gave birth to me. But that really started me on a journey that really, as I look back, was painful. But now I'm able to just tell the story and not get too lost in the pain. So as years went on, bits and pieces were given to me in conversations here and there. But I really understood that I was angry. I was really angry about the whole situation, but I pretended very well, that I was not angry. But I knew that I really, really was very angry about my mom not telling me the story about why my brother and I had 2 different fathers. And I've come to understand that she, as she said, was ashamed because she had me for a married man. And my mom is pretty open about this now, so I don't believe it's bringing her any shame or anything like that. But she just told me that she was ashamed of herself. And in that shame, I think I can understand that she felt at that time that she was protecting me. I really realized that I had a lot of anger as it related to that whole situation. And I'm not going to really get into this story really deep right now, but I understand now why the same cycle repeated itself with me and my son. So put a pin in that. We'll come back to that thought. But I want to go back to why I never understood or never really received the thought that I was placed here for a reason, because honestly, I believed and accepted the lie that I was an accident. I wasn't supposed to happen. So there's really no purpose for me being here. That was a lie that I believed and I accepted for a very long time. I never really understood and accepted the idea that God created me to fulfill a particular assignment. When I heard it for the first time, it was really strange to me. I'm thinking, how can this awesome God of the universe really care about why you are here? I thought the only thing he was concerned about was us doing religious types of things, going to church on Sunday, or as it related to my particular religious embracing at that time, I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. My mother always had Bible studies with the witnesses in our Brooklyn home from the time that I can remember. Maybe I was 2 years old, and I grew up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, a part of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. So I thought that he only cared about doing the things that pleased him, like going to the meetings all the time, knocking on doors with the Watchtower and Awake magazines, trying to get people to have in-home Bible studies. That was really, growing up, the thing that I threw myself into the most, especially after I found out that this man was not my father. I really threw myself into the religious activities that I thought would kind of drown out the pain and the numbness that I felt for not knowing who my father was, and for really not knowing this man, and really not knowing the man who she came to tell me was my father, and because he didn't fully embrace me, being that he was also a married man. Wow. So this created an interesting mix of dynamics that would lead me to live a life of some depression, some pain, some religiosity, being critical, being bitter, being passive aggressive, not really speaking up, being who I really was, not being a person that would readily say what it is I wanted in life and what it is that I felt that was not fair, if I was treated unfairly. I was not able to bring myself to make people or allow people in my space unless they could do certain things for me. Now, let me explain that. I didn't want to allow certain people in my space because I felt like I was a fraud because not knowing exactly who my father was, to me, it kind of took out a whole part of my life. And I really didn't understand because I didn't know who he was. I really didn't understand who I was because, of course, we are a mixture of both mother and father. So now, before I really got on the journey of understanding and learning who my father was and being free to do that, there were a lot of challenges that I had to face and a lot of realities that I had to face about myself. I wanted to also know who he was. And so we kind of got into some interesting situations throughout the years. And as I said, they were bits and pieces here and there that kind of came together throughout the years that when he found out that I knew, and when I found out who he was, and I found out where he lived, and all of that. It's a really long story that I'm really not going to get into right now because it's really not too relevant. I just kind of wanted to build a foundation as to why purpose is so important for me. So that kind of gives you a little bit of foundation as to why and where I am today as it relates to purpose. Now, purpose is something that is very, very important because, you know, it's been said, and I think Mark Twain said it, that the two most important times of your life are the day that you were born and the day you find out why. I've always liked that saying, you know, the two most important times in your life is the day that you were born and the day you find out why. So this was very important to me because I found out and I thought to myself, well, if I'm having such a difficult time with this thing called purpose, I wonder how many other people are having the same challenge with understanding purpose and why we're here. What is it that we were called to do? What is your assignment? Are you assigned to a particular person? Are you assigned to a particular group of people? Are you assigned to a particular social situation? Are you assigned to a particular political situation? So your purpose can have so many different, it can go in so many different directions, I'll put it like that. And I think one of the things that gives you a clue about your purpose is the thing that you do the most or you enjoy doing the most and that comes to you with the least amount of effort. Now, I've found that communication, speaking, anything that has to do with being before people is something that I do quite easily. My fifth grade teacher, Mr. Bernard Percy, he acknowledged that to me when I was in the fifth grade. And actually, well after the fifth grade, we kept in touch. And he always would speak to me about my communication skills. And I really appreciated him for saying that. So I want to kind of piggyback on some other things about purpose, and I'm going to do that, but we're going to take a break first, and then we'll come back, and we'll sum it up, and we'll look at